Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. I'm at my Monroe yard now, and whilst I'm going to be putting Formic Pro on these hives, just like all my other yards, I'll do a quick look through them to see just how much or how little honey flow there's been in the last couple of weeks. Well, maybe about a week since I've been here. So I just want to check to see if they are filling, or if I expect to be taking these supers straight off as soon as the Formic Pro treatment is done. So we'll have a look in and see how things are progressing. The bees are fairly busy today. I wouldn't say that haven't seen it busier, but they look pretty good. So there's something keeping them busy right now. A lot of it might be this yellow stuff in the fields here. Bees are busy working on that. You'll see them on a few of those flowers. I think it's might be a mustard of some sort. There's quite a bit of that in the field here. There's some goldenrod, there's some asters, and I know the landowner here, the farmer, has planted an acre or so of mustard, which will give me a late bloom here, which is always very helpful. He does his best to plant stuff as cover crops, which the bees will benefit from. I have to do a bit of weed whacking while I'm here as well. But a fair amount of activity right now. Some nice pollen coming in. But it seems the majority of the bees are coming in with nectar. So we'll start by looking in the two end hives, as I usually do. Now, in most of my yards there is little or no flow right now. It would be great just to see some progress, but already I could say that there's nothing that's going to get me excited here. This is empty. That's pretty much empty. There's about 5 pounds in there. So we're just going to make sure that this 10 frame colony makes it through the winter okay. So mite treatment on for this one. And of course it's a bit small to be producing a surplus. I never really expected it to. It's a nuke we made in July, if I recall correctly. So if this is something to go by, those supers will be coming off as soon as these mite treatments are done, and then we'll be putting the feed to them. But as we see from hive to hive, it varies enormously. If the colony is strong enough, it's got scouts in the right places, it can find a lot of food. Let's have a look at this one. Nothing at all in here to speak of, like virtually no bees. Virtually no bees here. They're down on the supers below. Because what's going on at this stage, because the honey flow is so low, almost non-existent, the bees are taking what nectar they've got and putting it between where they do have honey and the brood chamber. So they do have some honey here, This is the top of the brood chamber, and they're putting it, and where the brood is being condensed down and down and down, they're putting the honey that they do have around that brood chamber, so that the brood chamber is always in contact with the honey. So whereas when there's a honey flow, they need more room. The queen is pushing to have as much room down below, so they can't put honey below, so they put it above. But this time of year, there's so little honey coming in that they don't have to put it above, they put it all below. So any honey that is coming in at the moment is going in the brood chamber area, which from a wintering point of view is where we want it. So this is not a brood chamber, this is actually some honey, so at least I'll be getting some honey off this hive. This will be going as a single deep. The brood chamber is pretty good. I can see honey in the outer frames of the brood chamber. So this one's doing great. But that's what you have to remember. If you feel that there's nothing happening at all, and that's true, there's nothing happening in those in the honey supers, or doesn't appear to be, and that's because the bees have been storing what food they're getting in the brood chamber or just above the brood chamber. Because as the queen slows down her laying, she demands less room in the brood chamber, and so the space that was getting filled up with brood by that quick laying queen is now there's space to put honey in there, and that's exactly what the bees are doing. They're putting the honey in that brood chamber area. Now if there's a strong honey flow, they continue storing it at the top of the brood chamber, up above the honey that's being stored up here. Again, next to nothing going on here. Nothing going on at the top, at least of this, but this has got several boxes, so this is totally empty. And in fact, what they'll be doing with these honey supers is moving the uncapped honey down. So they don't tend to move capped honey, but what they do move is the uncapped honey. So what we'll probably find up here is that there's very little uncapped honey, just some capped honey. It's very little, and moving it down here. This is the top of the brood chamber down there. The queen excluder is just below here. But from the upper honey supers, they tend to empty it out of open honey stores, and that's why sometimes you go look into the hives at this time of year and you say, whoa, there's less honey than there was in the first place. And what they're doing is actually moving the honey from where they haven't cured it yet, and they move it down into the brood nest. So, whilst there is not much new honey coming in, what is coming in is going into the brood chamber area. There must be something coming in because of all this activity, but that'll mean less feeding required, but we'll still have to feed as soon as this mite treatment is done. Now, the reason I can't feed right now, and this always baffled me, so I got in touch with Nod Apiaries, my supplier in Canada of Formic Pro, and apparently if you feed internally while the mite treatment is going on, the bees behave normally, but there is a significantly higher winter mortality, and that came as a surprise. It hasn't really been, it's not really fully understood as to why there is a higher winter mortality if internal feeding is done while Formic Pro is being used, but it's certainly something that we want to avoid. So the recommendation when you're treating with Formic Pro is you do not feed internally, and of course you can't feed at the entrance because you don't want to block the flow of air in and out of the colony. That would hurt the bees for a different reason. So the answer is either do some open feeding if you really need to feed in a external feeder, or wait till the mite treatment is done in 10 days and then do your treatment. So it's important, if you're going to do a Formic Pro treatment, you get it done now, because especially if you find that you're still going to need to treat, because you're going to have to leave yourself time. Right now there are 30 days or so that we can still feed in Maine and have the bees be able to cure that honey. They can cure the honey up until roughly the 10th of October. And here we are now, the 11th of September. We've got about 30 days before there is no longer warm enough nights and good enough weather for the bees to cure that honey. So you want to get the feeding done as early as you can to make sure that both the upper brood chamber is entirely full of honey and the lower brood chamber is pretty much 2/3 full, half full. So very important to get our feeding done now. Our mite treatment's done now. So that means we've got about 3 weeks after that, during which we can actually feed our bees internally with bucket feeders or what have you. And bucket feeder, hive top feeders are what they mean by internal feeding. So while these honey supers are empty, it's good to leave the bees room to retreat into this space. Otherwise, sometimes what they'll do is cluster on the outside of the hive, and then they're not getting the full effect of the mite treatment. So the honey flow here seems to be pretty much the same. A little bit in the afternoons, not much else. Not really enough to accumulate any honey in the honey supers. So as soon as this Formic Pro treatment is just about done, I'll be taking these supers off too. So basically we're full on for heading into the winter preparation now. All the honey supers, as far as all the yards I've seen so far, will be coming off in the next week to 2 weeks. Would have been doing that anyway, but now it's a matter of I'm not expecting any more in them. So I'm just leaving them on because of the mite treatments right now. On the whole, I'd say I'm taking my supers off 1 to 2 weeks earlier, maybe even more in some yards. I'd say this fall has been pretty poor from a honey flow point of view, so I'd be surprised if my overall harvest isn't down by about 25% this year, with about 40% coming in the first part of the summer last year. I'd say this year that's going to be more like 60 to 70% of my honey will have been the summer honey. Anyway, that's where it goes. That's beekeeping. Fortunately, I make most of my living from selling bees. So the good thing that we've got going on now is that we have good, healthy hives. They're getting the mite treatments in, and they're going to be in great shape for next year because we'll feed them up. They're getting plenty of pollen right now, if not plenty of honey, and sugar syrup will go on, and that makes for an excellent feed. Very soon thereafter, we'll be putting mouse guards on, and entrance reducers rather, and then mouse guards. But entrance reducers because as soon as the frost comes, then the last of any honey flow disappears, and then robbing becomes a real potential issue. We have to keep an eye open for robbing now because the honey flow is so poor, but I've not seen significant robbing anywhere because I think it's been just enough to avoid that. Anyway, on to the next job. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.